TheMetalReview.com.
John, thank you very much for spending some time with us here at the Metal Review.
My pleasure.
Absolutely thrilled to finally have you guys in South Africa.
Yeah, we're happy to finally be here, man. It's been a long time coming.
As you know, it's been a couple of touch and go instances where we were almost at you here, and then we had to wait a little bit longer. So you guys played Cape Town last night. Tell us all about it.
We played last night in City Hall in Cape Town. The crowd was insane. The venue was a little bit small, so I'm hoping that we have the insanity tonight from the crowd, but maybe a little bit bigger of a venue.
Well, we promise in Joburg it's going to always be double big. And
Right.
double is best. So John, 2013 has been a roller coaster year, obviously for Lamb. I want to focus on all the positive stuff. What would you say is the greatest thing to come out of the last year for a band as big as you guys?
Oh, man. Well, to be able to continue doing what we're doing is pretty huge. This is terrible to confess, but I think we toured with Metallica on this last run, or was it the run before? I don't remember. That sticks out as a highlight, whether it was this last year or the year before or the year before that.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I mean, obviously, how do you guys keep pushing yourselves in terms of you've reached such a high, you've achieved so much, you know, as a band. What do you still aspire towards, you know?
Well, there's still some places we haven't been. Well, in Joburg for the first time, in South Africa for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that helps us keep going. But you know, we're lucky enough to do this for a living. We started this as a hobby, as a passion, and as our art that we did very stubbornly in our own way, and somehow ended up here.
All right, in terms of the new album, I think everybody's sort of saying, you know, gee, after such a mammoth album that dropped in 2011, you know, when is there a hope of some new ideas? Have you guys been tossing around some new stuff?
We have, and I'm glad that you wanted the question to be when and not how are you going to do something better, because that's a question we ask ourselves every time. When we get together to start discussing the record, start working on the actual music, probably won't be until the middle of this year. Keep forgetting me the new year.
Oh, it's 14.
Yeah,
that's
14.
So, anything in terms of the formula you guys would say you're going to challenge to do differently, or you're going to
we try to push ourselves on every record to kind of step outside of what we've done before while still maintaining, you know, what it is that we do. We're a heavy metal band. We're not going to change that. We're going to put out music that we feel really good about.
Awesome. In terms of questions that, you know, I'm sure you've had certain questions that have been asked to death. I must be. I mean, I've looked on some of the questions.
Thank you for doing your research. And what question did you come up with, being asked over and over and over?
Well, the couple of ones from the last recent one I'm not going to go into, but certainly what I'd like to know, and I'd like to give you an opportunity of something that you've never been asked and you've always wanted to share with the audience. You know, what is that one question?
Oh, well, shit, I don't know. I'm too wrapped up in having a good time and running around the world rocking and rolling. I don't know, ask me some questions. We get asked all the time why we changed the name from Burn the Priest, which happened in 2000, I think. So 14 years later, we still get asked that question.
Yeah. Well, okay, and from that
So scratch that one off.
You're a big poker player.
I'm almost 6 foot, not quite 6 foot, and I do play poker.
What's the best hand you've had this?
I haven't had time to play poker.
You haven't been playing?
No, I started a business at home that's not very rock and roll, but takes up a lot of time. There's a monthly game that I play in that I haven't been home as it's happened. But it's really just for fun.
That was a question, by the way, submitted by Metal Review from somebody that really...
The best hand that I had recently? Let's just say I had a straight flush.
Fantastic. Well, that's the way to do it. Do you still prefer those smaller, little, intimate gigs, the ones that kind of just a few really crazies in the front, you know, or do you prefer the bigger stadium store?
There are positives to both of them. Yeah. When you're doing the intimate show, you're right up in people's face, sweating on them. And that's an intense moment. There's some energy exchange going on there, but then when you play to a larger crowd, you have more distance, but there's more people out there. So it can be harder to connect, but if you can, it's huge.
As the Palaces burn, there's obviously going to be a mammoth event in March. I mean, we've seen just recently on social media, you guys are posting in 200 countries. That's huge. I mean,
you tell me.
I saw something like that. So obviously that's a great exposure. I mean, for a story that you guys are going to get out there, you know. So, do you guys think that from a DVD perspective, you know, sort of, it's going to follow up? We haven't seen it, you know. I'm dying to see it. It's more documentary, right?
Yeah, and actually, it's kind of an odd thing. We started this movie trying to show our fans and the impact of music, specifically our music, on people around the world in these far-flung places. And the story kind of changed in the middle of it. And the people making the movie are artists in their own right. And they were true to telling the story as it unfolded. It's a tragic story. And I would like for people not to think that we're trying to commodify the story, but it's a documentary of what happened that I think a lot of people are interested in, and there's a really good story put together there.
Yeah, it's a great end result, and everybody is so happy.
For most people.
The Mighty Lamb of God is back and better as ever. Tell me, I have a couple of other questions, more from a music industry perspective, interesting things we've been seeing, and I always ask the bands what they feel about it. The resurgence of vinyl, people have just been going crazy. I mean, all of a sudden, this music format is just killing everything in its path. You'd swear it's a brand new thing on the block. Of course, it's been around forever. How do you guys experience vinyl? You love vinyl?
Vinyl has its place. I have a vinyl collection that I haven't turned my record player on in a really long time, but I have a record player next to my vinyl. There are people that absolutely love vinyl, and they love a band, and they want to have that release on vinyl, so why wouldn't we?
Of course, yes, yeah. And certainly from our perspective, we have some stuff we'd love to sign as well.
Sure, I've got hands. You get a pen?
Tell me, John, tips for new bands. You know, they're so, we've been hearing guys talk about this all along. You know, we had some guys from Trivium recently say there's not enough metal bands and camaraderie between metal bands, and youngsters should kind of pick up the guitar and start playing and form new metal bands, and there's not enough creativity in metal today. What's your take on all that?
I think kids should pick up instruments regardless of what they play. I think they should pick up pencils, brushes, anything. Be creative, be artistic,
and
whether it's heavy metal or not.
And what would you want Lamb of God's message to sort of inspire through that art of medium?
To question everything.
Oh yeah.
Not to echo what's been said before, but it's a pretty good one.
And I got to ask, how is your experience of South Africa so far?
It's been wonderful. We don't have enough time here. We've not even enough time to scratch the surface. But
coupled to that, you're going to say you're going to be back soon.
Well, it's not on the books, but I know we've been down here and it's been successful shows, and when we get back to touring, we will definitely come back here.
Fantastic. What are you looking forward to most tonight?
Well, this is the absolute last show of this touring cycle, of a 2-year touring cycle for Resolution.
All right, so you guys are heading back for some rest and relaxation after this then, right?
A little bit, yeah. This is the culmination of this tour cycle, so tonight should be pretty good.
Wow, so we've got privileged tonight to Joburg to see the last of that.
And we're quite privileged to be in Joburg to play that show.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you mentioned to me just before you walked into the room, you've learned some local words.
I did, but I learned them before I got here. I've been mildly obsessed with Dion Word and Max Normal.
All right.
I picked up a couple of their dirty Afrikaans words.
That's interesting you say that. That seems to be a massive export. I mean, we're proud of that band. Everybody,
we should be. They're incredibly musical, creative, talented people. When we had this show booked, I actually reached out to the promoter to be like, hey, does anybody know these guys, and are they going to be in town? Because I would love to meet them. But they're not. They're busy at work.
So show us some of those Afrikaans, which, by the way,
it's terrible. Who's Cloud? The girl behind the camera just turned. Of course, Daka. If I hadn't just stepped off a plane and been asleep, I could spit out a couple more. But donkey is, thank you.
Have you tried the local beverages here?
Well, I gave up drinking about 1.5 years ago.
Right.
So, like the craft brews and stuff, I haven't stepped into. Sorry.
Good. Well, we're known for our wines and our beers and our beautiful scenery. Are you guys going to get a chance to probably check out some of the wildlife?
No.
Unfortunately,
we just flew in this morning from Cape Town. I'm exhausted. I'm going to catch a little nap for the show, and then tomorrow afternoon we fly home.
I'm very pleased to say there's lots you got to come back for then. So
yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to
ticking the box South African done. Kind of been there.
Well, been there, but definitely more to see.
All right, fantastic, John. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
we're so looking forward to the show tonight. Looking forward to see the Mammoth Lamb of God just go from strength to strength.
Well, thank you.
Guys, for the metal review, we'd like to say John Campbell, Mighty Lamb of God, Joburg, South Africa, fucking rock and roll.
TheMetalReview.com